Welcome to Body Efficiency Training, and in this video we're going to be working on the most efficient way of standing up, and we want a nice line from the crown down to the sacrum going through the S-curve of the spine. And this is very important. The spine is the most important part of our body, the center of our nervous system and the center of our structure and movement. So we just start by twisting left and right here, and you guys can keep on twisting. Just stand nice and loose, concentrate on feeling the S-curve in the spine. Let the knees bend slightly, but the bounce is taken in the hips. Let the hips move, the bottom project slightly back, keep the belly pulled in, the shoulders and rib cage up and back, and just keep on twisting as I explain the alignment of the spine. So here we have a picture that I've drawn, a very basic picture, but you can see we're standing up, and there should be a nice S-curve in the spine, and the skull should sit on the top nice and easy, and there's a balance point for the skull, and there should be a little lumbar arch going down to the sacrum, and we've got here a slight bend in the knee, and the sacrum here should actually tilt slightly back, or the pelvis should tilt slightly back about 7 degrees. So it's nearly like you're moving towards sitting on a chair. But it all depends on how deep your knees are bending. The lower you go, the more your pelvis can project backwards. But you're trying to always keep the S-curve of the spine. And there the skull's got a balance on the top of the neck. And you can find the balance of the head by just rocking your head forward and back. And you can see me just doing that there in the picture. You can feel a little point where it balances. Try to do that gently forward, gently back, and find the balance point where your skull sits on top of the spine. And you can see, you can feel it's just slightly up. You're looking very tiny bit upwards, but you experiment with that and work on it. And then you've got the lumbar spine is the next thing that's very important. We do want an arch in the lumbar. There should be an arch in the lumbar. The lumbar has got to be strong. It's a spring, and we've lost a lot of that arch. You sometimes see it in young children who are lucky to have a good posture. You see they've got a strong lumbar arch, and we want that. We want to regain that. But to counteract that, we've got to pull in the front, and the front here is the TA muscle, the transversus abdominis muscle. So you pull in the belly, and you also pull in the obliques at the side, and this strengthens the front side of the lumbar, because the lumbar is really the weakest part of your skeleton. See, from here to here there's not much going on. There's just the spine. Everywhere else you've got some other bits of skeleton happening. So if you don't pull in the front, what is supporting the spine? It's only the muscles at the back. So that's not enough. We've got to hold the whole waistline tight. There's meant to be some tension here at all times to control the spine. We've just lost the ability to do this, lost the habit of doing that. And the secret is the TA muscle. Pull the navel in towards the spine. And then you also lift the rib cage up. You want to tilt the sternum slightly bit up. You expand the rib cage a bit at the front, lift up the rib cage, and lift up the shoulders, pull them back. So that tilts up. But again, this will increase the lumbar arch, but you've got to pull in the belly to resist that, to counteract that. And there's an expansion here at the back of the ribs, and you breathe deeply into the back of the ribs. Feel the expansion right into the very back of the ribs, and that expansion gradually goes down and down towards the kidneys. So the belly will move when you breathe, but you want the breathing to go up into the back of the ribs. This is the deepest part of your lungs, and you will also access your structure. If you breathe moving the rib cage, it will also move the shoulders and move the spine. So you're trying to breathe deeper and deeper so it affects your rib cage. And you see, if your posture is wrong and the belly hangs out, what happens is gravity works upon you and you start being pulled forward, and the internal organs also get pulled down. So we don't want that to happen. We've got to lift up the internal organs, open up the rib cage so there's a bit more space for them to go up, and hold them up with the TA muscle. And then you want to keep a nice line from the spine going down. You see this? You want a center line of gravity that goes down the spine, and your spine is towards the back of the body, so it feels a bit more like you're leaning back. You're leaning backwards more than leaning forwards. You see a lot of weight is on the front, the belly, the arms are on the front, so that pulls you forward. So you've got to counteract that by trying to balance along this center line. So as you're standing and twisting, you're trying to find this balance point along the back. You see, here's the front. Usually our center of gravity goes towards the front and we get pulled forward. And you can see the picture on the right, the hunching forward person. But it feels more like you're leaning backwards than leaning forwards. And you can practice this on the heels first. So you take your weight to the back of the heels. But ultimately we go into the ball of the foot. So here we are now just standing up nice and straight. We're trying to move to the dynamic standing. Toes slightly out, so your hips are open a little bit at the front. So you can feel this twisting and opening of the hips. Lock out the legs straight for now. Just keep the legs locked straight. We're working on the hips and the spine. You squeeze the glutes to drive them forward, but you don't tuck them in. You've got to then pull in the belly, so you've still got a lumbar arch. Also pull in the obliques here at the side. You squeeze the obliques in, pinch in like you've got a corset on. And you can feel from there down it's already tight. The glutes are tight, but the thighs are tight because you locked out the knees. You pulled in the belly, you've got a lumbar arch, and you're on a bit on the balls of the feet. Now you've got to lift up the rib cage, lift up the shoulders, lift up the elbows, pull the elbows back, and even push the head slightly back so you're leaning back. Feel like you're leaning back, like you're relaxing, leaning back in a sofa. But you've got a nice stretch through the spine. You're still on the ball of the feet, but you can also practice here going to the heels. But your body is rigid, so you squeeze the glutes, pull in the belly, pull in the obliques, lift up the rib cage, lift up the shoulders, pull back the elbows, and lean back from the very base. The whole body is rigid, and you feel this nice stretch through the spine. Well, I say rigid, but what we're trying to feel is a control of the joints. We're trying to open up the joints, stretch the ligaments in the joints, and this is still mobile. There's an elasticity in the ligaments, and we're trying to access this elasticity, this bounce. And now just loosen it up, make sure there's no residual tension, and come back to twisting left and right. So as we do this twisting left and right, you can do this for a long time, nice and easy, nice and relaxed. You're just trying to find body awareness and feel the spine and feel an even stretch through the spine. Be very careful not to overstretch. Feel the rib cage moving as you twist, shoulders up and back, so you've still got an arch, and you keep the belly pulled in tight and the obliques tight, and this controls the twist. So now what we're going to do is grip the toes a bit onto the floor, so you feel that. Still toes pointing out. Squeeze the glutes, drive them forward. You're still locking out the legs. Pull in the belly, lift up the rib cage, lift up the shoulders. Inhale, expand a little bit. Again, arms up and back. Lift up a bit further. Feel that stretch in the spine. Pull back the elbows, but pull in the belly. You're creating a dynamic tension to stretch out your spine. And you locked out the legs, squeeze the glutes tight, but lock out the thighs, knees straight, and grip the toes in the floor so the hips are open at the front but also opening at the back. You see, you're still not tucking your pelvis under, and now you rock your weight forward and back all the way down to the ankle. So right down you rock into the toes, and as you rock into the toes, grip your toes and push them into the floor, and then take your weight back to the heels, all the way back and then all the way forward. So you're trying to keep this straight locked out body, a strong stretch, and rock your weight forward and back, and now you're feeling the center line of your gravity. Try and feel what's happening to your body inside as your weight goes back to the heels and as your weight comes forward to the toes. But you're trying to keep your structure locked up regardless of where you are, what angle you are. And this is the important bit. We need our independent structure regardless of what's happening. And again, twisting left and right, feel that nice center line from the crown to the sacrum, shoulders up and back, nice and loose. Loosen the arms. There's a slight tension always in the waist and in the shoulders and the rib cage, just lifting them up and back. It's an expansion, a stretching tension. And again, once more, lock out the legs, lock out the glutes, pull in the belly, lift up the rib cage, lift up the shoulders, lift up the elbows, pull back, lean back, stretch open. Feel that nice alignment of the spine. It should be pleasant. It feels like a lovely stretch. And the better you get, this really feels like you're just leaning back in a deck chair or leaning back on the bed, just relaxing out. Now you keep that structure in your spine and let your hands come down. So now we're moving towards a more natural standing position. Now this still is quite dynamic. You see the shoulders and rib cage are up and back, but the arms hang down loose. Relax the elbows and the wrists best you can. Keep the neck stretched up, chin pulled in, loosen up the fingers, and now in the same business, the legs are locked out, glutes are tight, rock your weight forward and back to the heels, to the toes. You push your toes into the floor, and you let your weight sink to the back of the heels. And you're just trying to feel the center line of your gravity and the control of your structure as you rock forward and back. Your whole structure, your whole body as a single unit moves together. And now we start to bend our knees, so we're moving towards a more natural standing position where it's still dynamic. You let the bottom project backwards a little bit, so like you're sitting on a stool, but you still squeeze the glutes, pull in the belly, lift up the rib cage, shoulders up and back, chin in, stretch the back of the neck, feel a stretch, and twisting again left and right. Again, try not to feel the twist in the knees. The movement is in the ankles and the hips. Very careful, don't over twist. This should be easy, natural. Be mindful of your body. You're trying to feel what feels right. It should feel natural and easy when you do this. And you feel the whole movement and an even stretch and rotation through your spine. You're trying to elongate the spine, even out the tension and the relaxation throughout every single vertebra. Shake out the arms and legs, just relax again, and once more coming back to the dynamic standing. Feet slightly out, toes slightly gripping the floor, knees bent, sit down a little bit on the chair but the hips are open in front, squeeze the glutes, pull in the belly, lift up the ribcage, shoulders, pull back the elbows. So you're leaning back, your lower body is sitting in a chair but your upper body is leaning back in a sofa. So it's very comfortable, very nice, and the stretch should feel pleasant. It should feel like a lovely pleasant stretch. You should be enjoying this. This is the idea. This should feel nice, pleasant to do. And then you drop the hands down, and this is the dynamic standing position. At the moment you're still on the heels, you feel the weight sinking into the back of the heels, and you're finding the spinal alignment at the back. So this is the first thing to find. But now you slowly take your weight forward onto the ball of the feet, but you still got to feel that backward leaning, and you're still sitting backwards in a chair. Now this is taking it to the dynamic position. We actually need to be using the ball of our feet, and this is ultimately here the dynamic standing position. But you keep moving, you keep making micro adjustments, wiggling out, shaking out, just feeling inside, bending the knees, using every joint, keep readjusting and trying to find that feeling, what feels right, what feels best. It's all about balancing, and balancing is continuous movement. So you've got to make these continuous movements inside. It's very difficult to hold this really stationary. We're not really doing a stationary position. Sometimes it gets very stationary, but it's not. There's micro movements happening inside, and this is what we've got to do for ourselves. This is body awareness. We actually have to be aware inside our body and feel this. And now as we're twisting, feel that stretch also in the rib cage. I'm holding here the sternum, and this is the movement. We want to feel a stretch from the sternum. The rib cage goes back and forward as we twist. The spine twists and the rib cage twists, even a little bit of a stretch in the neck, and then finally loosen up, shake everything out, make sure you've got no tension, and try and keep that good posture throughout the rest of your day. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Look forward to seeing you in the next one.